You look up at the night sky and you see thousands of stars. Somewhere out there, you've probably wondered if anyone is looking back. Now imagine that question thousands of years ago, with no electricity, no cities, no light pollution. Your ancestors saw 10 times more stars than you do tonight. And some people believe those ancestors saw something else too. Something that came down from the sky and changed everything. This is the ancient astronaut theory, and it has convinced millions of people that prehistoric humans met visitors from another world. But the real answer is far stranger than aliens. It's a story about your own brain and why it was built to see meaning where there is none. Here's how the theory usually goes. Ancient Egyptians built the pyramids with impossible precision. Nazca villagers in Peru carved massive lines into the desert that can only be seen from the sky. Cave painters across the world drew strange beings with round heads and glowing eyes. Believers in ancient astronaut theory point to all of this and ask a simple question. How could primitive humans, without machines, without modern tools, achieve something so advanced? The answer they give is that they didn't do it alone. Extraterrestrial visitors, they claim, landed on Earth thousands of years ago. They taught early humans engineering. They taught them astronomy. Some versions of the theory even claim they engineered the human species itself. It's a compelling story. It's also almost entirely wrong. Let's start with the pyramids, because that's where this idea usually begins. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 4,500 years ago, using an estimated 2.3 million limestone blocks. Each block weighs an average of 2.5 tons. To a modern viewer, that number feels impossible. But archaeologist Kenneth Feder, who has spent decades studying pseudo-archaeology and the claims behind it, points out something crucial. We have found the ramps. We have found the worker villages. We have found the bakeries that fed the laborers, and the medical records showing broken bones that healed while the workers kept eating and working. This wasn't slave labor from another planet. This was a highly organized human workforce, using ropes, wooden sledges, water to reduce friction, and decades of trial and error passed down through generations. The impossible wasn't impossible. It just took an enormous number of hands and an enormous amount of time. So why does the alien explanation feel more satisfying than the human one? This is where the real story begins, and it has nothing to do with outer space. Your brain is a pattern-detecting machine. It evolved that way for a reason. Imagine you're standing in tall grass 50,000 years ago, and you see a shape moving. Your brain doesn't wait to gather more evidence. It assumes the shape is a predator, because the cost of being wrong in one direction, thinking there's danger when there isn't, is much smaller than the cost of being wrong in the other direction, thinking there's no danger when there actually is a lion in the grass. This tendency has a name. Psychologists call it agenticity, the instinct to see intentional agents behind events, even random ones. Michael Shermer, a psychologist who has studied belief systems for years, argues that this same instinct that once kept your ancestors alive is the same instinct that makes modern humans see faces in clouds, hear hidden messages in music played backwards, and imagine advanced civilizations behind ancient monuments that were actually built by ordinary people with extraordinary patience. Now think about the cave paintings, the ones with round heads and strange glowing eyes. Ancient astronaut theorists point to these as depictions of visiting aliens. But here's what actually gets lost in that explanation. Cave art wasn't drawn to be historically accurate documentation. It was symbolic. Anthropologists studying rock art across different continents have found that shapes like circles, spirals, and glowing halos appear again and again in cultures that had zero contact with each other. Why would isolated tribes on different continents draw the same alien if none of them ever met? The more likely explanation is far more human. These are the kinds of shapes people see during altered states of consciousness, whether through ritual, fasting, or natural trance states brought on by rhythmic drumming and firelight. Your brain, when deprived of normal sensory input, tends to generate the exact same kinds of geometric patterns, regardless of what culture you were born into. Spirals, circles, radiating light. These aren't alien signatures. They're a shared feature of the human nervous system. Let's talk about the Nazca Lines now, because this is often considered the strongest piece of evidence. Massive drawings in the Peruvian desert. some of them hundreds of meters long, depicting animals and geometric shapes that can only be fully appreciated from the air. The argument goes like this. Without airplanes, how could the Nazca people have possibly designed something meant to be seen from above? But archaeologists who have actually walked the sites, rather than just viewing them from a plane, have found something the theory conveniently ignores. Small stakes and rope remnants near several of the lines, evidence of a simple technique. You don't need to fly to draw something huge and accurate. You just need a fixed center point, a length of rope, and basic geometry. The same geometry that could scale a small design up into an enormous one on the ground. Researchers have even recreated smaller versions of the figures using exactly this method, without ever leaving the Earth. So if the evidence keeps pointing back to human ingenuity, why does the alien explanation persist so stubbornly? This is where astronomer Carl Sagan's famous principle becomes useful. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Sagan spent years investigating claims of ancient contact, and he pointed out something that still holds true today. Every single artifact used to support the ancient astronaut theory has a far simpler, better documented explanation rooted in ordinary human capability. Meanwhile, there has never been a single verified piece of physical evidence, no alloy that couldn't have existed on Earth, no writing system that wasn't eventually deciphered as fully human, that requires an alien explanation instead of a human one. The theory doesn't survive because the evidence supports it. It survives because it satisfies something deeper. It flatters us, and it comforts us at the same time. Think about what the ancient astronaut theory is really saying underneath the surface. It's saying that ordinary people, without modern tools, without universities, without cranes or computers, could never have achieved something extraordinary on their own. It quietly implies that human achievement needs an outside explanation to make sense. But that says more about modern assumptions than it does about ancient people. The truth, when you actually look at the evidence, tells a much more impressive story. Humans, using nothing but rope, fire, observation, trial, error, and generations of shared knowledge, built structures that still stand thousands of years later. No spaceship required. Just persistence, and the same brain you're using right now to follow this sentence. There's also a modern reason this theory took off in the way it did. In 1968, Erich von Däniken published a book claiming ancient civilizations had extraterrestrial help, and it sold millions of copies almost overnight. It arrived at the perfect cultural moment, right after humans had just landed on the moon. Space exploration was suddenly real, not science fiction, and the public appetite for stories about visitors from beyond Earth was enormous. Archaeologists at the time pushed back hard, and decades of research since then have only strengthened that pushback. But the story had already taken root in popular culture, repeated in documentaries, books, and now algorithm-driven videos, long after most of its original claims had been thoroughly investigated and explained. Consider one more site, far from Egypt and far from Peru. Stonehenge, standing on a plain in southern England, made of stones weighing up to 25 tons each, some of them transported from over 150 miles away. No wheels existed yet in that region at the time it was built. So how did anyone move stones that size across that kind of distance? Engineers studying the site have tested wooden sledges pulled over log rollers, and later over trackways lubricated with animal fat. Small teams, working in relay, moving stone by stone, month after month. It's slow. It's grueling. It's also completely achievable by determined humans with rope, timber, and enough people willing to pull together. Archaeologists have even found the quarry in Wales where some of the stones originated, complete with wedge marks showing exactly how they were levered out of the ground. There's no mystery left to fill with aliens. There's just evidence, sitting there, waiting for anyone willing to look at it closely. And here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. Why does this pattern always repeat? Impressive ancient structure. Assumption that ordinary humans couldn't have built it. Later discovery of the exact human method used to build it anyway. This has happened again and again and again across nearly every so-called mystery on the ancient astronaut list. That repetition should tell you something. It's not that the evidence for aliens keeps almost appearing and then vanishing. It's that the evidence for human capability was there the entire time, and modern audiences were simply primed to overlook it. This same instinct doesn't stay locked in the past either. Think about how modern conspiracy theories spread today. A confusing event happens. A simple, boring explanation exists, but it feels unsatisfying. A more dramatic explanation appears instead, one involving hidden actors and secret knowledge, and it spreads faster than the boring truth ever could. Researchers who study belief and misinformation have found this same pattern over and over across totally unrelated topics. The human brain doesn't reward the explanation that's most accurate. It rewards the explanation that feels most complete. Ancient astronaut theory isn't really about ancient history at all. It's a mirror, showing you exactly how your own mind still processes uncertainty today, thousands of years after those pyramids were finished. Here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. The real explanation is not less amazing than the alien one. It's more amazing. Consider what your ancestors accomplished with only naked eye observation. Ancient astronomers tracked the movement of stars precisely enough to build structures aligned with solstices down to the exact degree. They did this without telescopes, without written mathematics as we know it, using nothing but patience, memory, and multiple generations passing down careful observation. That's not primitive. That's one of the most impressive intellectual achievements in human history, achieved entirely by the species you belong to right now. So the next time you see a documentary claiming aliens built the pyramids or ancient visitors carved the Nazca Lines, ask yourself a different question than the one the theory wants you to ask. Instead of asking how could humans possibly do this alone, ask why you were so ready to believe they couldn't. That question says less about ancient history and more about a very modern discomfort with just how capable ordinary people working together across generations have always been. You looked up at the sky earlier and wondered if anyone was looking back. The truth is, the real story was never up there. It was in the hands, the patience, and the shared knowledge of the people who came before you, standing right here on Earth the entire time. The more we learn about the past, the better we understand ourselves. If this video sparked your curiosity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Phoenix Primeval for more fascinating stories from history, science, and human evolution. Thanks for watching.